All right, good morning, all. Welcome in. It's House Edge Live with John from Casino Gaming Central. Sorry, I got a little bit of a stuffy nose today. I'm not sure what happened. I think I caught something over the weekend. So I apologize if I had the sniffles and the sneezes during the show. But anyway, hope we have a great show today. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about math. I don't want to get too mathy, but we're going to get a little mathy. I've been watching a lot of YouTube. And I've had time to recently because this is a little TMI, but my wife she picked up a second job and she's working like 5 o'clock in the morning for her early work. And so she goes to bed like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So now I have like 8 o'clock at night. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm back to watching craps YouTube. And so I'm seeing a bunch of interesting things and I wanted to react to some of them. I talk a lot about Ken from Ken Knows Gambling, a lot about Waylon from Waylon's Way Craps, and a lot about Jimmy from Jimmy Mastery, because those are the three guys that are putting a lot of content out, frankly. Some of the newer channels I think are very interesting. Should have cashed out is another one. Doing some pretty good stuff. But anyway, the thing that's been striking me recently, and I wanted to do kind of a pushback, but then I thought, no, let me not push back. Let me actually do some work on this, is what Ken's been doing recently. So if you watch Ken Knows Gambling, he's putting out a new system. He's calling it the Tower, or I forget. I think it's called the Tower. Anyway, doesn't matter what it's called. He's got one from before he did with Waylon that was the retirement plan. This new one that he's got is basically like, take 3 rolls and then stop playing kind of a thing, right? So, and it's really about dodging the 7. Jacob from Wager Me This says the same sort of things on his shows a lot of times, where he's like, okay, after roll or hit 3 or 4, start pulling back because the 7's coming, right? And I always react super negative when I hear things like the 7's coming, because I know that it's not coming, right? It's coming eventually, but because you've had 4 rolls doesn't mean that you're closer to it necessarily. It doesn't mean that because the average is 6 or 7 or whatever it is, that because you've seen 4, you're getting closer to the next 7. It's not really true, mathematically speaking, but it kind of is. And I want to show you that today. So before I do show you that, of course, I want to remind you that everything we say on this show, and I'll speak for most people, right? It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. We're just trying to teach and entertain and have fun, but also give you a little bit of knowledge here, right? Because the casinos, as you know in real life, they exist to bankrupt you, right? Their business model is based on bleeding you dry as you bet. The more you bet, the more they take. They have unlimited funds. They will eventually bankrupt you. And if you get good enough at certain games, they'll stop you from playing them, right? The games that have the best edges, or the places where players could earn an edge, are either going away or the rules are changing, so you can't keep the edge. So know that you're fighting an uphill battle. And that's why we say, if you're going to go armed with something. Have a little bit of knowledge, some intelligence, have some bankroll that you can have a kind of a fair fight, right? Understand how you view risk so that when you're playing, right, your risk matches your bankroll. You can't be a high risk player with no money. That's very important, right? Have discipline, have goals, keep yourself under control. That's the point of all of our shows. Okay, so let's get to it here, and I want to talk to you about some math. All right, let me get into this over here. I'm going to change sides. I'm going to change sides on you. Ready? And as I do this, Ken says it's called the pyramid will form, not necessarily in a few rolls, but keep rolling it and it will form. I'm going to show you something cool today, Ken, that I think is going to add some credence to what you're saying on your shows. I want to give some kind of, not credence is the wrong word. I want to give you some foundation or some fact behind it so people can see the pyramid. I'm going to show it to you today. I wrote a little bit of code that'll show you the pyramid, and I think it's going to be interesting. But it comes down to this. What do you trust more? Ultimately, do you trust the math or do you trust your feelings? And how do I say this right? A lot of people out there say things like, you got to do what the table's given you, right? I feel like this is going to happen, or the 7's looming. All bullshit. Tables aren't hot or cold. They were hot, they were cold, but they aren't hot or cold in the moment. Because you can't look forward based on what just happened in all these tables, right? No feeling you get is telling you that you get ever will inform you what's about to come. I watched a video from somebody the other day. The entire strategy was, I bet what the table's what I think the table is going to give me. I listen to my intuition and I can tell what's going to happen. That is bullshit, right? Do you trust what you think is going to happen, or do you trust what's more likely to happen? And do you lean into ways of playing that are more math-based, more what's probably going to happen is this, therefore my strategy is based on leaning into that, what's probably going to happen, versus what I think is going to happen. Very often, those two things are the same, and the separation between what I think is going to happen and what probably is going to happen, it might be the exact same. You might be thinking, oh God, I've seen 4 rolls, that 7's freaking coming, right? That's bullshit. However, 4.5 rolls is the average, right? So we know that that's a mathematical thing, but it's not because you felt that way. It's what it is. And I want to show you some of that stuff on the old computer machine today, if I can. So we're going to look at a couple of things. And today's demonstration is going to be about this whole idea of long-term versus short-term. This is the argument that I have all the time with what we call, quote unquote, the math guys, right? Although I understand the math and I lead into the math and I get it and I like to play with the math and all that kind of shit, I'm not a math guy. If I was a math guy, I would play pass line max odds and have the shaved little house edge and tie every single time. I don't play that way, okay? I believe in short-term variance, and I don't believe in it. It's the fact. There's a thing in the world called short-term variance, which means in a little tiny window of time or rolls, you will never see the perfect statistical average. You'll never see exactly 1 7 every 6 rolls when you only roll 10 numbers. Or if you roll 12 numbers, very rarely will you see exactly 2 7s in 12 numbers, the average, right? You're going to see some level of difference. When you roll 36, you're never going to see 36 rolls come out perfect. However, if you roll 36 million numbers, you will see almost exactly whatever that is, 6 million 7s. You'll see exactly 3 million 4s. But and when you roll millions of numbers, it comes right down within tiny micro percentages of the average. That's the long-term math. You don't play long-term math. You play short-term. You play 10 shooters, right? And the 10 shooters you're looking at, most of the time, you're outside of the average. So what do you actually do? What do you actually do when you're playing it? And Ken says, remember, it's your brain, it's your money management, and your bankroll. That's the thing that separates strategy. Good players from poor players. Those are and I say this every day, Ken, I'm with you in lockstep. Your brain, right? When do I get up and leave? When is it not going well? You have to make decisions, right? Your decisions cannot be, oh God, I'm rolling a lot of 5s. Let me go pile my bankroll on the 5. That's not a decision that your brain can make. That if you're doing that, you're crazy town, right? But your money management, your discipline, all of that, all those things are the most important. I think that Ken and I would agree 100 million%. Now, let's get into what this law of large numbers looks like versus short term. I think it's a pretty good demonstration. And I want to look at these things. I want to look at the 7 frequency today. We're just going to go to craps. I'm going to go to the terminal. I'm going to run some code for you. Look at the 7 frequency. How often does it actually come? In other words, what's the average number of 7s that we see? Is it 1 out of 6? Is it 1 out of 5? What is it for real? I want to look at the other 2 numbers, though, which are the most important numbers. And these are the things that actually Waylon did a video last night or the night before, where he was on a huge ass rant. If you haven't watched it, watch the rant. He actually labels it my rant, I think, where he's going off on dice influencers and why he works the come out. If you can control the 7, work the come out kind of thing. I'm going to show you the frequency of 7s when the puck is off versus when the puck is on. And I think it's important to see that, right? The overall number of 7s is important, right? Then we're going to look at the SOR, which is the number of rolls that you typically see when the puck is on, inclusive of the horn numbers, okay? How many times does a person roll a number that's not a 7 while the puck is on? Then we'll look at the BSR, which is the same thing, but only the box numbers. For those of you who play only box numbers, how many box numbers do you typically see while the puck is on? If you're not working the come outs, that's the number you care. The only thing a craps player should ever care about, a right side craps player should care about, is this BSR. And it'll be the third column the third set of stats we look at. How many times Do you see a box number that you could collect money on from 90% of us when the puck is on? All the come out rolls don't matter. The last 7 doesn't matter. It's what's happening while the puck is on. We're going to look, that last number is going to be the 1. That's the one that I think Ken's new strategy kind of leans into. Actually, he's more on the second time because he does count the horns. Let's look at what can we actually expect to see. How many 7s do you actually, or how many rolls do you expect to see between 7s in these circumstances? Okay, and I'll explain them to you as we go. Now, as I do this, we'll do it I'll do a couple trials here. And I want to not focus on the results, but I want to focus on the summary first, and then we'll look at the results, because I think the results kind of dovetail with that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to switch my screen now, and we're going to go to that. I think this should be, give me a second to figure out how to do this. I'm going to click on this button, and give me that. Can you see my, I think you can. Maybe you can't. Let's see here. Can I do that? There you go. Okay. All right, let's clear the screen. I'm going to run this little code that I wrote. We're going to run it for first 10 shooters, and I want to only look at the top line. Okay, only the top set of lines here. I wish I could get this thing to be up front. I'm going to wind it back, and we're going to look at just the summary section. Okay, I just did 10 shooters. Okay, this is about the length of time most players will be out there. One time around the table, maybe twice around the table, depending. Okay. In 10 shooters, in this set of 10 shooters, we saw 69 rolls, 13 7s, 1 in 5.31. So this is a set of rolls that you might call a hot table, right? Instead of 16, or this is a cold table, right? Instead of 16%, we saw 18%, more 7s than we should in this small window, right? The average was 6.9 rolls per shooter. That should be 8.5. Okay. The longest shooter had 13 rolls. Again, in a small window of time, we are outside what we expect. We expect 16. We expect 1 out of 6, not 1 out of 5. Right. That's a pretty bad table right here. And if we look down at some of this stuff in here, the rolls between 7s, we had 0 rolls between 7s. That's like 7-7. Right. There was a couple of those. A couple times there was 1 roll between 7s. The biggest one was, of course, that 13 roller. In this particular example, you'll notice that we cluster at the bottom because you can only have so many that are 6 or below. Most of the results are going to be down in here. I think a lot of people think that, if the average number is 6, you'll have as many 12s, right, as you do 1s. Or whatever. In this case, you happen to have that, but that's not always the case, because most of the numbers are going to cluster below the average, at the average or below, because there's only so far you can go. When you can go from 7 to 50 or 60 or 70, as you'll see later on, the numbers cluster down here, but there's also an equal number above the average, but there's spread so far out, and that makes a big difference. Okay. Now, in that same set of 10 rolls, right, here's what we saw here. Group number 2, non-7s per shooter while the puck was on. The point being said is not counted. The point made is counted. This does include the 2, 3, and 12, and the 11. Okay, that does include those numbers. So here, again, we cluster down below, right? And what you've got here is about 3.8. So 3 rolls or so in this set of 10 shooters, on the average, landed before a 7. So these strategies that optimize for 3 rolls or so, 3 to 4 rolls, this is exactly where you expect to be. Most of the time, you're going to be in that 3 range because you're going to have 0.7 out. There's 2.7 outs in that, right? You got some couple of 2s, a couple of 3s, right? Most of the time, you're not getting anything past 3, 4, or 5 rolls. Most of the time, you're going to be clustered in that short-term, very low number of rolls output. Once in a while, you get some outliers. And again, the last group here will show the same thing where we cluster low. Okay. This only counts the box numbers. This does not count horn numbers. So when you're not counting horn numbers, you can expect about 2.7. Okay. That's what it looks like. Again, for 10 shooters. And I can clear the screen. I can do that run again. Whoops. Let me clear the screen. Come on. There we go. I'll do it again. We'll see about the same thing. When I do the second run, This time the 7 came 1 out of every 6.75 rolls. Right, a little better run this time, 14%. So this was a hotter table, quote unquote. Right. Look at the spread here. Why is it better? Because you had 2 rolls, an 11 roller and a 13 roller, and a 7 roller that all exceeded what you expect. The last set of 10 shooters, nobody did, but one shooter. This is what short term looks like. Every time I do this, I'll do this over and over and over again. You'll find that in the short term, you'll almost never see the exact, there, 7, 1 out of every 4 rolls. Good Lord, 23% of the time. This is a horrible table, right? But in short term, when you run it in 10 shooter clumps, you're going to see that almost all the time. A lot of clustering down in the short roll area. You're going to see yourself never be at statistical average. 4, got 22% of the rolls are 7s in that one. And again, you're down here at about 2 box numbers, 2.7 box numbers per shooter. Can you imagine? Right? Random, how's it look like on Crapless is the question. That's the second one. Group 2, which is all the rolls while the puck was on, this does count the 2, 3, 11, and 12. Okay, the second set is the Crapless set. So there's going to be 3 in the average on this one. The bottom set is only the core box numbers, so it's a little less. So the middle one does count. It's kind of the Crapless one. Hope that makes sense. Now, I'm going to change the parameters here. We're going to go to 1,000 shooters. Okay, instead of 10 shooters, we'll go to 1,000 shooters. This might look like, look how much more we have now. 8,000 rolls. That might be a full day, right? If we have, let's just do a quick little bit of math. If I do 8,500 divided by 24, that's 350 rolls an hour. This is probably 2 days worth of work. All right, it's probably 2 days back to back at a casino. Given this 1,000 shooters, look where we get to now. The 7 comes 1 set of every 6 rolls, about 16.4%. If I just clear the screen and do it again, you'll find that every time I do 1,000, we're damn close to 6. Almost every time I do 1,000 shooters, even though the numbers are different, we're always at about 6. If I go to 100,000 shooters or like that, 10,000, 100,000 shooters, almost every time, it's 1 out of 6. I'll do 100,000 shooters again. And again, when the farther you get away from small numbers, when you get into these enormous sets of numbers, you end up, look at that, 1 out of 6, 8.5 is the average. We know these numbers by heart as craps players. The more you see, the closer you get to what you should see. 1 in 6, 8.54. Matter of fact, looking at 100,000 shooters, here's the curve. There is look at that perfect freaking bell curve, or that perfect curve we get, right? And again, taking the average, right? 1 out of every 6 rolls or so, right? When you expect to see the 7, the numbers of results cluster down here. Most of the time, you're at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Most of the shooters are going to be in that area. The rest of them are going to be the nice ones, the 24s. There's probably one shooter down here that's a 65 roller, right? That you're praying to God you see that one monster roll. The monster rolls do happen, right? You can see them in here. There are from 20 and above. There are 600 of those. There's a lot of monsters in here, okay? But there's so few of them compared to the 25,000 0.7 outs that we see, that they get gobbled up. They get gobbled up by statistics. That's the law of large numbers, right? And again, if I scroll down here on a Crapless table, okay, the mean down here, get to it, is about 5. You'll see about 5 numbers per roll, per shooter with the puck on. Box numbers only, about 4. That's the number I expect. I expect to see 4 with the puck on, right? When I'm practicing my dice rolls, what I'm looking for is to beat 4. I'm not looking to hide the 7 necessarily. I'm looking to get more than 4 box numbers per shooter, per my throw. That's what I want. I want 5. Okay. That doesn't mean hiding the 7. It might mean getting on the average with my toss and my dice set, less horn numbers. I'll swap out a 2 for a 6. I'll swap out a 12 for a 5. If I do that, my average goes to 5, and Bob's your uncle. That's what you're looking for. It's the whole point of practicing DI. But 100,000 rolls in, look at everything is just so beautiful and perfect. That's math, man. That's what math does. But we don't play 100,000 rolls. We're playing 50 or 16 shooters twice around the table on average. Two trips around the table. That's what most of us are at a craps table for. This is what it looks like. The curve is not perfect. It starts out perfect because the clustering at the low end, but you're going to see these bigger ones are outliers and they're very obvious to see, right? Again, the all numbers besides this with the puck on. Here is your box numbers. Look at that. 4 times, no box numbers. 3 times, only 1. 3 times, only 2. This is where the majority of your life is going to be as a craps player. And these numbers and this little app points that out with a spotlight. Most of the time, look at that, 25%, no box numbers. Almost 20%, 18%, only 1. 18%, only 2. Right? You get to, right, here you are. 68% of the time, you're at 0, 1, 2, or 3 box numbers. That's most of the time. So when I hear people saying the 7's coming, or I'm going to make a strategy that 3 rolls and I'm fucking out, I get it, because this is what you typically see, right? The right-siders who are saying, well, I'm going to play for the hot roll. Cool. In 16 shooters, you had one guy got 15, right? If you're 64 across, you get whacked because you need at least 3 rolls to make your money back. Same betting, which means to me that 62% of the time you didn't make your money back, right? Out of the 16 shooters, 4 times you lost your $64. 3 times you lost whatever, $50. 3 times you lost $40. 1 time you got even. 1 time you made $35, and these times here you're making some money. Really hard game. And when you look at even in the short term how poor it is. So to come full circle, I think there's truth on both sides of this thing. The law of large numbers shows you how perfect it will be over time. And if you played 16 shooters today, and 16 shooters tomorrow, and 16 shooters Wednesday, and 16 on Thursday, and you went every day and played twice around the table every single day, you will eventually get to, over the course of a week, 160, right? Or 10 days, 160 shooters over 10 days. We did that, let's say 16 shooters times, 16 shooters times 5 days times 4 weeks is 320 shooters, right? So if you played Monday through Friday for a month, 320 shooters is your average you're going to see. Here's your numbers. Look at that. Look how close to perfect we're getting. The more you see, the worse it gets for you, right? Or the more perfect it gets. Here we are, 1 and 6, 8.17, right? You're clustering down below here. And again, for you right-siders down here, right? Again, it's almost the same. 60% of the time, you don't get to roll 3. You get to roll 3 or less. Only 60% of the time. You have to optimize if you're playing craps. This is why dark side wins, because you have to optimize for this. That's why the horseman, by the way, is my favorite way to play. The headless horseman wins on the 0.7 out. I win here, I win here, and I win here. The horseman wins on when you have 0, 1, or 2 length rolls. Look at that. Half the time, the horseman wins before we even get that third come bet set. That's why I love that strategy so much. Half the time, I'm ahead before the third come bet is set. And if the third come bet does get set, well, now I get into these numbers. Now I start getting paid down here. That's why that strategy is so good. This is why what Ken is doing with the pyramid is good. Because at some point, you know, this is the statistical average you're in. And if you don't care about this, finding that 28 roller or finding the 18, if you don't care about that, then you're going to optimize in here. How can I best make money in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 rolls? This is where you have to, I think, in craps, optimize your entire life. You had better be out of your hand, have profit, and be willing to walk, have the money management, the discipline to walk in this realm every shooter. Now, I'm saying walk off the table. I'm saying walk away from that shooter. Right? This is shooter averages, not day averages. So 3 rolls per shooter, 3 rolls per shooter, 3 rolls per shooter. You optimize in this area here, you're going to be okay most of the time. That's why the Dallas Drawdown wins. That's why the retirement strategy wins. All those early sevens that the lay 10 catches in the retirement plan, this is where it is. This is why the pyramid strategy that Ken's working now works, because all those early sevens, you're winning on them. You're winning on them before the other ones hit. If you catch one and turn your shit off, you're fine. If you're willing to have the discipline to take a small win and walk off that shooter and let it go. Take my 15, 30, 40, 50, 100, whatever it is your bet unit is, take that win, turn your bets off, and let this happen. Let these big ones happen while you're counting your money, because most of the people that made a lot of money down here, right, are losing their shirt up in here, and you're not. And that's the difference. That's the difference. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, and it's not too terribly boring to see these numbers play out. But to me, it's fascinating. When I do this, and I do 10 shooters, and I see the variant, look at the variances here. You can see how flat these things are. That's variance. That's short-term variance. Every time we run it for 10 shooters, it's different. These things look different every single time. There's always, right? The more you go, you get to millions of shooters, and boy, look at that. It is freaking absolutely gorgeous and perfect. There are going to be some crazy monsters in here, but out of a million shooters, there was 2 that had 60. Can you imagine? Look at that. You get up into here, from 15 or above, 97% of the shooters are not getting to roll 15. That's what this tells you. Out of a million shooters, 90% of them, 97% of them are not seeing, not 15 rolls, 15 box numbers, 15 numbers you can actually collect and press on. 97% of the time, you don't get 15 numbers to press on or collect on. I want you to think about that. That's an important number, man. That's an important freaking number when you look at this. The cumulative total, 97% of the time, you don't get 15 numbers. 91% of the time, you don't get to number 10. 10, just 10 numbers. Just give me 10 numbers in the box and I'll be okay today. Well, look at that. 10% of the time you get there. That's crazy town. That's the reality. That's reality. So when I'm going to come back to the other screen now and talk to y'all. Let's go back to here. That's the reality of it. When you look at what really happens on a table, and that's why I say you can't really trust your gut. Your gut means nothing to me. What you think is going to happen doesn't matter. Okay? I don't believe the 7 is due or it's coming, but I do know for a fact that 90% of the time, I'm not going to get 10 rolls. I'm not making a strategy that requires 10 rolls to get there. I'm not. I'm going to make a strategy that requires me 3 rolls to get there, because most of the time, as you saw, roll 1, 2, and 3, 60-something% of the time, that's where you land. Most of the time, you're at roll 1, 2, or 3, and then a 7. So the 0.7 out that sucks happens all the fucking time. It happens all the time. It's the norm. It's not the outlier. It's the norm. Quick 7s are the norm in this game. The outliers are actual outliers. You've got to make sure you plan for the short runs, whether that's a dark side way only, or whether it's a 1, 2, or 3 hit and run strategy, or a 1, 2, and 3 hit and then keep playing for the long one. That's fine if you're okay with tying all the time, but you got to optimize short. To me, these kind of demonstrations are such an eye opener. When I look at this stuff, I'm like, I'm always not amazed is not the word for it. It's just like, yep, there it is. It's like, no matter what you want to fight, you want to punch in the paper bag all day long, you're fighting the reality. And the reality is that short window is where it's at. And I can't stress it anymore. That playing for the long rolls is lunacy, right? Setting yourself up to capitalize on a long roll, not lunacy. Optimize short, optimize short, optimize short, adjust when the roll goes longer. You have money in your rack if you have adjusted for the short roll to play on in a longer roll. You have the ability. That's what excess bankroll is for. We talk about this all the time. Buy in your session, hit your win goal, hit your win goal, hit your win goal, and you've got multiple win goals on shooters. You can stay in on the longer ones without feeling so bad about yourself. It's okay. All right. Let me get some questions. Let me go see what's in here. I gotta go to the doctor's pretty soon. Let's see. I gotta get some blood drawn. All right. Questions and answers. let's see what we got. I'm going to look at some cues here. Give me a second to search my chat box. Oh, wow. Look at them all. Victor says, why make any high VIG bets during a long session? So that your win rate will drop as the VIG. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Actually, I'm going to talk about bet styles tomorrow, given all this information. The high house edge bets aren't the worst thing. They collapse on variance. That's the whole point of it, right? So if you're going to basically bet a 50-50 bet, the pass line, no odds forever, the variance gets you, right? The short-term variance will either boost you or kill you. When you're betting higher house edge bets, 5 or 9, that pays more than 1-to-1 on a better run. That extra little spiff that you get because of the high variance or the high VIG on those bets makes up for previous. And again, a smart bettor can see that and work that into their money management. So, all right. Let's see. Why don't people who run strat sims run in 100,000 roll segments? Looks like you cut yourself off there, Duracell. Maybe I missed the next part of your sentence there. The problem is you can't do it. I can't sit here and run 100,000 rolls. But what I tend to do, and you remember when I did my bankroll build, I ran the same bankroll, right, for 280 days, right? I basically went through, I want to say it was 7,000 or 8,000 rolls in that show. And I kept the stats for the whole thing, right? I think it was 7,000 or 8,000 rolls. And early on, we had massive variance. In the end, we didn't. In the end, we had pretty much statistical norm. But I'll do it again. When I do my next one, I'll do the same thing. I'll make sure that I track every single roll and won't do it on the daily. The daily is fun to see the wild variance, but over time, you'll see that it all stretches out. And I am playing a long lifetime session. So, all right. You're right about this. Money management and discipline will never compensate for a shitty strategy. That's why I think you need both. And I think that this kind of math or this kind of obsession highlights where you need to focus. And given that focus on that short run, having good discipline and having money management skills coupled with that, to me, it's a marriage. That's the bridge. The bridge, if I go back and I can do this, the bridge is the marriage between intelligence, risk, and goals and discipline. It's all of that together. Money management's part of all this, right? You have to have all of it working together. If you're light on discipline, you have no discipline, you're screwed. You got no goal set. You don't know where your North Star is. You're screwed, right? You don't have the intelligence to understand what I just said and showed you. You're screwed. You have to know these things. And all of it together, I think, is the answer, right? That's why I don't advocate for one strategy. It doesn't matter what the strategy is. They all live in that world. I tend to optimize 3 ways, man. It's the horseman, it's the Dallas drawdown, it's duck and cover. That's what I do. Sometimes with a lay bet, sometimes not. That's literally the way I play. I don't do anything crazy anymore, right? The more I've studied the math, the more I can see what's happening, the more I know what I'm expecting. That's my life now. I don't put out 1,000 strategies because I think they're all the fucking same. They're all the same. In the end of the day, they're all the same. It's, do you ladder your bets or not? Do you progress your bets or not? Do you get the fuck up and walk away or not? That's it. That's the only thing, no matter what you're doing. Okay. All right. Let's see. That's right. Most inside bettors don't play the come out. You think they're missing on rolls, right? If you look at those numbers, though, there's more sevens that happen back to back and the one shots in the set of rolls that I was demonstrating there. Those early sevens are it's a much wider net. Okay. And I can go back to you and show it to you again if you want to see it, Victor. Let me show it to you because I think it's important points. This is where what I don't buy into. This number here, the 0 count, right? Let's go back up to the this one here. So the 0, right? Look at the tail on that. Okay. This is the rolls between sevens without caring about the puck, right? There are 0, 1, 2, 3. Look at this. More rolls happen here. More times you see no numbers, right? Or 1 or 2 numbers when you're not caring about the puck than with the puck on. These numbers are always higher with the puck off because of the consecutive 7 problem. This is what happens. And unfortunately, when you're betting the inside or across, working the come out, this 0 is the one that gets you because the 7, 7, 7, 7, 11 come out sequences that will hammer your bankroll. Got to be careful about that. I think it's a really important part of the whole thing. So, all right, let's go back here again. What else do we have? Predict numbers is the wrong and disservice, right? I think, and there are people who claim they can, who shall remain nameless. There are people who claim they have an angel on their shoulder that tells them which numbers to bet based on what they've seen. They are full of shit. They're full of shit, and they're charging you money to learn how to listen to the angel on your shoulder and know what's coming. That's a real thing, and it's not just one person. There's multiple people that are out there preaching that have systems where they log and say, well, given all of this, here's what's going to happen. It's BS. You cannot predict a thing. You can't predict a thing. What you can predict is that at some point, you're going to live in this world of short runs. That's just the way that it is. All right. Let's see. How well does the random generator math live roll? If I had live roll data to plug in, I could plug it in, and I could run this program that I wrote will accept the file, or it'll RNG it. So I can RNG it, or I can give it an outputted file of rolls. And we can let it cook on a set of real rolls if I had them. So if you have rolls and they're typed in, I can load them in, and we can see the same thing on real people's rolls. But the best I can do right now is to simulate it with RNG. And again, I think it's an interesting thing. When I look at these outputs, to me, it's fascinating to really see what the averages look like. And again, people think that if the average is 8, there's an equal number of 4s as there are 12s. That's not the case. That's not the case, because there's only so much room that are 6 or less. There's only 5 slots. There's an unlimited slots past that. So yes, maybe 60, 70% are 6 or below. The rest of them are so spread out, you never get there. And that's the reality of it. So anyway, little reality check for you guys today. Hope that all was good information, made sense, and hopefully a little eye-opening. When you see it for real, it should open your eyes a little bit. So I'll leave you with this. As our good friend Lou from the AC Crew says, stay in focus, guys. Follow your plan, observe the conditions, control your emotions, understand the game and the odds, which was what we just did, and stay disciplined. Okay? Keep it all together, and above all, keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't be an idiot and jump into the complex shit. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Simple don't. Simple right side. Drawdowns. 3 and down. 3 and out. 3 and go. Keep it simple. You go crazy, you do all this other shit, you're going to drive yourself nuts, you're going to feed the house. All right? That's it, guys. Love you all. God bless. See you tomorrow. Bye.